Last week we towed our campers and mates out of Brisbane and into the Sundown National Park, where sharp shaly rocks, deep twisted ruts and flooded rivers created all sorts of fun before a fallen tree stopped us dead in our tracks. This week we're back at it, exploring the tracks, bouncing off rocks, descending to the valley floor and challenging the Big Iveco in the swollen Severn River. Welcome to Life Off-Road as we continue exploring the tracks of Sundown National Park in South East Queensland.
We did then come along a fallen tree, and with the wind that's been around the last 2 days, well, we did expect this.
Simon pulled out his axe, gave it a shot.
Here we go again.
But Mike saved the day with his chainsaw.
"10 minutes the track was clear, made sure that we could all get through safely and it was out of the way, and we continued on.
Up on the ridge, got to have a look around the mine shaft. They were doing tin and copper and arsenic back then.
They must have had some pretty good views out there. Something different to see.
It was amazing the history that was there and what was left, the tailings and everything like that.
There was 100 men worked in that area, which would have been absolutely hard work because to get up there in cars was hard work, let alone get up there and draw all that material up and down.
I wouldn't have liked to have been digging by hand in there. After we went past the mine shaft, the whole top of the spur just opened up. Big grassy areas that you could take the view in. The view was for hundreds of kilometres and it was spectacular, really was.
Through the clouds, it had a little bit of a clear spell for a moment. Went across the top of the ridge. We all took our time because it was just a beautiful spot and it wasn't that rough.
100% rewarded when you get to the top. Just a beautiful, beautiful view.
After the really beautiful scenery, came down on our way to the lunch spot with Jeff navigating, showing me the best way to go about it. Super easy.
Go to your right. You've got a line there, that edge. Beautiful. Up you go. Perfect. Doing very well.
Chris, I know a huge amount of development has gone into the tread traction boards. Can you give us a bit of an overview, since we're out here on the tracks, how much time was spent out in the field getting them right?
It's never ending, that's for sure. I'm out, I think, every 6 weeks, out full driving in the field, trying different things. We get to get out to places like this and think about what situations we can use them in to just develop them, better them. It's one of the cool things about having your own factory. We're constantly looking at innovation.
They definitely saved our international friends and us plenty of times. We were stuck with a Toyota Tundra that only had rear-wheel drive.
Oh, I'll never forget that Tundra. Every trip always has something, doesn't it? Four-wheel drive not engaging, so it was always going to make it challenging carrying all the gear. Without any form of recovery board, I think the trip would have been a lot longer.
Bonza again, we've hit this rough, very heavy rocked, stepped area that we had to get down onto the plateau and get down into the river.
We then dropped down into a campsite area.
Beautiful little campground down there, very secluded, pretty remote really. You want to take everything in with you. Drop toilets, ripper little spot.
Crew's hungry, we're hungry. Let's get a bite to eat before somebody, I think, throws a line in and does some fishing.
Everyone had their own little picnic going for lunch.
We had some wraps.
We decided we'd pull out lunch. Chris got the barbecue going, got some snags, got some onions happening.
Mike, of course, he whips out the big guns.
Pulled out a couple of crayfish that prepared earlier. And we got another full crayfish.
We all had a feed of that for lunch, and that was absolutely fantastic.
Never had lobster camping.
He did share it around. It was nice.
It's for you, mate. Absolutely ripper, couldn't ask for, you know, crayfish and sausages. You're having boardings of the Australian dollar there.
Mike flicked a few lures around, and they're still there if anyone wants to go get them.
A little bit of fishing.
Didn't quite catch anything, but A for effort. Yeah, good on him.
Ripper spot, loved it.
Keen to get back on the tracks, we started the climb away from the river. We'd all enjoyed a spectacular lunch, but some had missed our uninvited guest.
I haven't seen too many lizards or snakes, but hey, it is wet and raining, so they're probably half smart and hiding away.
Big goanna.
After lunch, we've headed out on the trail again, down to a figure eight section, a nice little figure eight section with plenty of wombat holes. You got a right-hand track and a left-hand track.
Jeff jumped back in the car in the driver's seat.
And it was very wombat holes on the way down. On the way back up, there was two great rocks that you had to squeeze in between, very, very close to doing damage to cars.
Because we've been trapped in Victoria now for nearly 2 years with COVID, Chris gone, I've got this bonza track for you. It's really going to stuff you up. You're not going to be able to do it easy. So we just did some figure eights up and down, big wombat holes, big wheel lifts, some tight, narrow sections.
Are you going to use your rear diff locks?
Hell yeah, we're going to need everything we've got for this one.
Oh, 1, 2 and 3.
Low range, front and rear diff locks. And hang on to all the stuff in the back because it's going to come flying forward at us. I can see before we can get there, that's off camber. That's not looking nice.
To be fair, the track did actually come with its own warning sign about vehicles rolling over and stuff like that.
We just sat around and watched the big Iveco do its thing. Come close a few times, got into a few gnarly angles. Simon was yahooing and hooping.
Big truck flexing.
That's a fair hole in front now.
First gear, low range. Leave it off camber, we want to steer into this one. Come on.
Easy. Oh.
Is it really that easy?
You can feel that suspension travel working all the way.
We have minced that. I'll tell you what, from looking at that to driving it, that just looks and feels so stable.
Everyone had a little bit of a play on there. A couple of cars struggled in a few sections, a few wheel lifts, that sort of thing. But it was spectacular to watch.
See you, Mike, I'll let you know how it goes.
Ready?
I'm ready. Ready to rumble.
Right guys, here we go. Pretty treacherous spot this on my first gear low range. Watch the back wheel.
Amazing, especially listening to Chris's car, that V8, and just the roar out of its exhaust, just incredible.
Love the noises.
It's really hard to tell whether it's your car or a rock.
It's everything.
It's everything.
That was the car.
I didn't have a crack at the rocks going up in the Prado because I do have to report to the boss on what damage was done.
Mike decided he was going to go up. He went up, Simon went up, and Chris went up. They loved it so much they actually swung around, came back down and did it over again. Bit of adrenaline rush for the evening, some pretty good wheel lifting, nearly some panel damage as a big boulder was protruding from one side of the track and you actually off camber, so you actually slid towards it. But yeah, everybody had a whale of a time and it was a really interesting little track. Not long, but quite technical.
Uh-oh.
This weekend we're away, we're towing, and it's great to have the opportunity to level out the vans when we're back at the caravan park.
We've been using recovery boards to level vans and cars at campsites for a while, and we just went one step further. We thought we'd develop a natural leveling ramp, and I spent 18 months with our team developing that, and it was all about space, weight, compact and strength. We went with a single gradient design, and the reason we did that, it's just all about making sure the way that you get up on it is easy. It's got the least amount of pitch, so you're not actually having to level up onto flatter surfaces, all in a smaller package than anything's on the market.
And then we headed down to the river to do a river crossing, and that showed us what a river crossing was for Queensland. I had a look at the river crossing, had a look at the depth, it looked pretty reasonably okay.
I'm down that way. Yeah, by all means. It's not deep.
See how deep this is?
Clean some mud off.
Now we're going to be... Oh, that's going to be nasty.
Could be pretty deep in there, you know. No, I wouldn't be doing, because that'll be a wash away big time.
Simon's put the Iveco forward and dropped the front wheel and boom, into a hole, probably dropped about a metre.
He got a little ways and then the front left just went down any further. It would have been a bit of spot of trouble.
After Wombat Holes, we came down into another river section, and Simon went across first in the Iveco, and it looked all right, but very big hole, and the left front had dropped in it. And there was no going forward, there was no going back.
We've got ourselves on a ripper angle. I think we want to pull the rear out of this to that tree. It's looking a little bit interesting. Turn the winch on.
That led to us getting his rear winch and get him hooked up to a tree and recovering him. Very unusual for the Iveco.
You don't want to be trying to reverse out and jimmy because you could easily slide, and that's when things go south. So if you've got the gear, use it. If you don't have a rear winch, get someone behind you to pull you back is the way to do it, using your recovery points in the back.
So I hooked up the rear winch, pulled himself out.
But he had to be careful because it was going to tip forward pretty well if he didn't do it soon. So good on him.
I'll come back a touch.
I wasn't scared at all. I just needed a life jacket. But you know, with Simon, you've got to be prepared. The white rhino's only got a winch on the front, but having seen how useful a winch on the back, I mean, the only way you're going to get out of that trouble is either have somebody else winch you out or do it yourself and self-recovery and have a winch on the back.
Got the Iveco back planted solid ground, so he could then obviously kick it into drive and drive out of there.
We recovered that pretty quickly, took a line for all the rest of the vehicles.
Nice entry into the creek, a lovely little spot.
Apart from my own misadventure, everyone else made light work of the crossing of the Sundown Creek. We pushed on, eagerly in search of the main crossing of the Severn River.
Crossed a couple of trees, through the creek section into another section where we got to, which was a major creek crossing. The creek was no longer a creek, it was a flowing river.
Steve from Austrac has actually been there previously a few times, and he said the crossing's usually about knee height, but this time it was way beyond the waist. And with all the rain from yesterday, the river just came right up. There was a lot of water, no way it was going to happen.
That in itself threw up a few challenges. There was no way any of us were getting across it, only the Iveco.
Simon basically thought we'll check it out. We pulled the winch line out, connected to a car to be safe.
So we just attached the rope to this car so Simon can nose in. Pretty confident. I've driven this a few times. It's a hard base, it's not deep, it's just a bit of flowing water. So we're just going to nose in and have a look.
Excuse me. One day beyond the sea, one day.
Nosed into the river just to make sure that it was safe, he wasn't going to wash away.
into about half of it and decided, all right, let's disconnect me, I'm okay to go to rest. Drove across it, a mighty sight to see. Huge truck like an Iveco just doing a river crossing like that.
I've never seen the Iveco look so small in a massively flowing river. He made it to the other side, but it was pretty obvious that none of us were going to get across there. So then he returned.
Well set up, well capable vehicle, and a ton of experience with Simon, knows what to do.
Really good crossing, a really firm base. It's good to go with people who've got experience. Chris Roberts knew this track, he's driven it before. He probably hasn't seen it with this much water in it, but we knew the mighty Iveco could do it. We gave it a crack, we were successful, and it worked out just fine.
We finished playing around down at the river and a nice little climb out. Came back over those Wombat track, and the one that Chris said was going to be very hard for us. All of us had a crack at that again.
Once we finished down the bottom, we went back up again through the Wombat Holes, which was a bit of fun to go through.
Steve, on this trip we've got the Tanami X13, and I believe the X13 that you've got is a new model?
That's correct. The X13 that I've got is number one of number one, slated for release in probably a couple of months.
And what are some of the new features that it's got?
King-size bed, which is standard, but you also have an overhead bunk. The ensuite has been updated with extra storage externally, a new fridge slide compartment, bigger rock rails, and just overall major upgrades as far as lighting is concerned. There's mood lighting in it now underneath all the benches. An all-around different package. It's now running lithium batteries, where we used to run AGMs. It's now got running 2 100 amp hour lithium batteries with 400 watts of solar on the roof instead of 3.
And then it was starting to get very dark, and we decided we better head for home. We'd probably had a couple of hours journey to get out of the park at that stage.
And once we got up top, the sunset was absolutely beautiful. All of a sudden, it was a beautiful sunset, and then it was darkness. And we thought, oh well, we want to get back to camp, we want to have a nice feed.
So it's time to head out, hopefully get back to camp at a reasonable hour.
Then, we're going through, we're 2 hours from the gate, and we just want to get home. Just everything's been happening, busy day, we want to get home, and then Mike's popped a bead.
Got the vehicle secured. Chris kindly brought up these tread chocks, got them in, got the vehicle nice and safe. So I had a great conversation with Jeff today about not doing any beads, not having any punchers. I love the Mickey Thompsons, and guess what's let me down? The rim. So coming up the track, probably going a little too quick, hit a rock, and I've just heard psst, which is usually a good sign that either you've done a puncher or you've done the rim. The force of it hitting it, I could feel it, and I've done a rim before in this car. I knew it was the rim pretty much straight away. It'll have a crack on the inside of it. So the only option is get it off and get the spare on.
So after such a long night, we were really looking forward to dinner. Everything was all sorted. We thought campfire, had some really nice steaks ready.
We've got an appointment with the steakhouse, I believe.
Yeah, closed appointment, I think. I think the steaks will be well done. Yeah, by now.
But at the end of the day, it was just so late. So thanks, Mike. I hope that wheel lift was worth it.
It had been a ripper trip exploring the Sundown National Park, made even better with great tracks and great mates. We'd like to thank Chris from Tread for the itinerary, Mike from Trek for making the big trip up north, Jeff from Mickey Thompson for lending us a car for our crew, Austrac Campers for their incredible support, and Somerville Valley Tourist Park for the amazing cabins and campsites. Be watching next week for another big adventure with Life Off-Road.